Good evening. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Thursday, September 11th, 2025. I'm Errol Lewis. Nearly a quarter century after the attacks of September 11th, loved ones of victims are still in pain, remembering those that they lost. Our Nurulene Khawaja leads us off tonight with more on the memorial ceremony in Lower Manhattan this morning.
A somber tradition, marking the times each of the planes crashed and when the towers fell, and the reading of the names of the victims.
Elizabeth Ann Farmer.
By some family members of the nearly 3,000 people lost in the attacks on September 11th, 2001.
My aunt, Brooke Alexandra Jackman. My Aunt Brooke was only 23 when she died. She has now spent more birthdays in heaven than on earth.
Honoring their loved ones as they do every year.
Another year passes, but it doesn't make it any easier.
After 24 years, the pain for some still feels raw.
There were so many memories from that day, but we all were united in grief and senseless pain, carrying around our reprinted pictures, desperately hoping to find the loved ones alive.
It's unbearable for some.
We love you.
A deep hole felt not just on this day, but during each of life's biggest moments without their relatives.
My father-in-law, firefighter Kevin Joseph Smith, and my husband, Edward Frame Pullis. This year is more difficult because 2 of our 3 children are getting married, and you can't walk your princess down the aisle.
Various dignitaries among the mourners here, including former mayors Michael Bloomberg and Rudy Giuliani, as some loved ones of victims remembered happier times.
Uncle Christopher, you wasn't just my uncle, you was a brother to me. Us being 6 years apart, you definitely treated me like your little sister. You joked around, messed with me, broke my Barbie dolls.
Young and old, including a generation of New Yorkers born after 9/11, still with a bond they feel with lost family members they never met.
I hope to be just like you when I grow up. Grandpa Eddie, I love you and miss you. This is your grandson Dominic signing off.
Your grandchildren who haven't met you talk about you like you're in the other room.
My grandfather, firefighter Robert James Crawford, who will forever be our hero. I'm angry you were taken from us, but I beam with pride at the hero that you are. We miss you every day, and we will never forget.
The struggle continues with people dying of 9/11-related illnesses every year. There are around 140,000 people enrolled in the World Trade Center health program, and the CDC says of that number, around 44,000 of them have 9/11-related cancers. Nurulene Khawaja, New York 1.
As usual, Mayor Adams and former Governor Andrew Cuomo attended the 9/11 anniversary ceremony, but they also happen to be running for mayor this year. Democratic nominee Zohran Mamdani also attended, and Republican Curtis Sliwa paid his respects out in Queens. Our Dan Rivley joins me now with those details of where the candidates were. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Errol. Of course, on this day, the politicians, they cease campaigning and reflect and grieve each anniversary. Still, political violence and terrorism are issues on the campaign trail and among voters. And the 9/11 ceremony where the names of the victims are read could not escape that issue.
Alfred Todd Ranke.
Adam David Rand.
For politicians, September 11th is usually the day where the politicking ceases. It's the names of the nearly 3,000 people who died 24 years ago during the terror attacks on the Twin Towers that ring out.
Richard Cyril Rescorla.
Most of the mayoral candidates attended the ceremony in Lower Manhattan. Mayor Eric Adams, here sharing a moment with Rudy Giuliani. Andrew Cuomo, here with Michael Bloomberg. And Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee for mayor, having a friendly chat with the head of the MTA, Janelle Lieber. Respectful times in a week where rhetoric about political violence and terrorism are in the news. Cuomo, an independent candidate for mayor, earlier this week criticized Mamdani for failing to condemn such rhetoric. In a rare break with tradition, a relative of a firefighter killed in the attack, reading the names of the murdered, offered a message from the podium.
When political candidates and public officials refuse to condemn global terror and phrases such as globalize the Intifada, they are inviting another 9/11, God forbid. And they continue to bring daily fear for all New Yorkers.
He also addressed Mamdani without mentioning his name.
We need all political candidates, including every single potential future mayor, and you know who I'm talking about, of this great city, to speak out against terror and unite as freedom-loving New Yorkers.
Mamdani had already left when the remark was made. His campaign did not return requests for comment. Mamdani has said that he would discourage the use of the phrase globalize the Intifada, a slogan from the anti-Zionism movement.
That distance between what some intend and what others hear is a bridge that is too far. And it is why I have not used the phrase, and it is why I discourage its use.
Meanwhile, Republican Curtis Sliwa, here in his signature red beret, honored the anniversary in the Rockaways in Queens. And another name that voters will see on the ballot, Jim Walden. He's an attorney who had launched an independent bid for mayor and then dropped it. He's been trying to get his name off the ballot in the hopes of consolidating the vote against Zoran Mamdani, but Walden was in court arguing his case before a judge on why his name should be removed from the ballot, but he was unsuccessful. Errol?
To a certain extent, the presence of the political leaders is symbolic, right? There's no political fight going on right now around, say, getting funding for the World Trade Center health program or anything like that.
Right. I think it has been in the news, of course, this week. Each other, as you could see, it did lead to a break with tradition, having someone make such a comment from that podium.
Yeah, sure. I mean, even if you don't campaign, the campaign may come to you in the form, in this case, of somebody who wanted to speak out.
And I think it is an issue that can be salient for some voters. I know Mamdani has been on message about issues of affordability, but these kinds of rhetorical points are still important to some people in New York.
Okay, thanks very much, Stan. Meanwhile, on the campaign trail tonight, a source has told New York One that during a closed-door meeting with business leaders yesterday, Mayor Adams said that he will consider dropping out of the race in the coming weeks if it's in the best interest of the city. The source confirmed to New York One that the mayor planned to do some internal polling in the coming weeks, and the poll that he's going to look at will give information about whether he's moving up in the race and whether he's getting his message out effectively. In a statement this evening, the Adams campaign told New York One, Mayor Adams has made it clear he is staying in the race. On Friday, he stated unequivocally that he's not backing down. He is running because he believes New York City needs steady leadership to keep our neighborhoods safe, make life more affordable, and move our city forward. That's what this campaign is about, and that's why he is in it through November. Later on in tonight's show, I'll be joined by the president of the Uniformed Firefighters Association and a lawyer for the Victims' Compensation Fund. Right now, though, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, a manhunt continues for the gunman who shot and killed conservative activist Charlie Kirk at a campus in Utah yesterday. Those details are straight ahead. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
You want to wiggle the hips a little bit.
Keep your left arm straight.
Elbow in, head down.
Adjust your grip. Visualize the approach.
That was good. Next time we'll go out on a real course.
Next time?
It's all about connecting with the fastest wireless speeds from Spectrum. And internet customers get one mobile line included for 1 year.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You're done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. We are following the latest developments in the investigation of that shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The FBI has released photos of a man that they are calling a person of interest in the case, and they're turning to the public for help. Our Ayanna Harry joins me now with the latest. Good evening, Ayanna.
He blended in with the college students. Errol, that's how the FBI believes the shooter in the murder of Charlie Kirk was able to slip away. Tonight, we have 2 new images of the person they are now looking for.
Is on top of the building on the far north side, just east of the library, wearing jeans, black shirt, black vest.
Tonight, an active manhunt underway after the FBI released these images of a person of interest in the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. New video shows federal investigators searching north of Utah Valley University Thursday. It's thought the suspect might have fled into the neighborhood after jumping off the building right after what's believed to have been a politically motivated assassination.
The suspect blended in well with a college institution.
The FBI is now offering a $100,000 reward for information that leads to the identification and arrest of the shooter. Utah Public Safety Commissioner Bo Mason adding,
We are confident in our abilities to track that individual. If we're unsuccessful in identifying them immediately, we will reach out for the public's help.
While the gunman remains at large, investigators have recovered key evidence, including the weapon they believe was used in the Wednesday afternoon shooting.
It is a high-powered bolt-action rifle.
The FBI says it recovered video evidence as well.
Investigators have also collected footwear impression, a palm print, and forearm imprints for analysis.
So far, the Utah Department of Public Safety has received over 200 tips, and they are asking for even more, telling the public in a statement this evening, no tip is too small. Errol.
Well, it'll probably help if they give us a little bit more, show us the gun or, tell us what kind of gun it was. And, I mean, it might jog somebody's memory, right?
Yeah, local and federal investigators have been extremely conservative so far with the amount of information that they have released. Just those 2 photos, they've said that they do have very good video evidence, but that has not yet been released to the public. But we will continue to watch for updates.
They had that big goof yesterday when the FBI director said that they had somebody in custody, and then they had to walk it back. It turned out they had nobody in custody.
Yeah, and there were 2 people who were questioned yesterday. Those 2 people were eventually let go and released. But yes, there has been a bit of miscommunication as this investigation has played out.
I know you've been watching a lot of the statements. A lot of statements really seem to imply that this was definitely politically motivated.
Correct.
But until you have the person, you don't really know what the motive is.
That is absolutely correct, Errol. We have very little information, in fact, pretty much no information at this point in terms of what the real motive might have been, and we may not have that information for quite some time. So yes, we have seen online some people blaming the radical left, but again, we don't know the motives of the shooter at this point.
Okay, thanks very much, Ayanna. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, the masterminds behind the September 11th terror attacks have yet to stand trial. We'll explain why in 2 minutes. Stay with us. This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.
Okay, why Lucas should have a phone. 1, you can always get in touch with me. 2, think of all the new photos I can send you.
Get to the money.
Plus, with Spectrum Internet, we get 1 unlimited mobile line included for a year. I even used the Spectrum Savings Calculator. And you know what it said? Savings.
That was actually pretty good.
He's impressive.
Internet customers get 1 mobile line included for 1 year. From Spectrum.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time. And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan. Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first, stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. 24 years after the fact, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the accused mastermind of the 9/11 terror attacks, and his co-conspirators have yet to face trial. A plea agreement that was struck last year was thrown out by a federal appeals court in July, further delaying a legal process that appears to have no end in sight. Our Bobby Kuza has details on that. Good evening, Bobby.
Good evening, Errol. And I mean, it is mind-boggling how drawn out this process has been. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was captured in Pakistan in 2003. Him and his co-defendants have been in detention in Guantanamo since 2006. In 2012, they were arraigned on these charges. I was actually there. New York 1 sent me to cover. And now, here we are, 13 years later, and we have really made no significant progress toward a trial.
Once it seemed that justice for the 9/11 plotters was close at hand.
They will be brought to New York, to answer for their alleged crimes.
That was in 2009, but a planned trial in federal court in Lower Manhattan was scrapped following a public uproar, largely over security concerns. Instead, the case landed in a military court at the Guantanamo Naval Base, where it has been mired in years of delays ever since.
We're not really making any progress right now at all. The case is very much stalled.
Elizabeth Miller, whose father died at the World Trade Center, is among those who have lost hope in the military court system.
We've been doing this as is with the military commission system now for over 13 years, and we are still in pre-trials. We are not in a trial. We are not in a sentencing period.
Miller's group, September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows, supported a plea agreement struck with alleged mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 2 co-defendants last year. In exchange for admitting to their roles in the attacks, they would have avoided the death penalty, angering some families. Then Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin rescinded the deal, and in July, a federal appeals court upheld that decision.
We need to make sure that our government is pursuing the maximum penalty for these monsters.
Staten Island Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, who represents many 9/11 families, cheered the court's decision and is urging the newly appointed judge in the case to set a trial date as soon as possible.
This was a terrorist attack of horrific proportions, the largest attack we've ever seen in U.S. soil. And if we do not pursue the ultimate penalty for these crimes, then I think that we have not done our job in delivering justice.
But a trial could be many years away, given the complicated legal issues at play, like how to account for CIA torture. Miller says a plea deal would have brought finality. Now she worries the defendants, who've been detained at Guantanamo since 2006, may never be convicted.
If somebody like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed were to die tomorrow, you know, of course we know that he's not an innocent man, but in the eyes of the law, the label is presumed innocent. It's not guilty, but he would have never been put down on court paper as being a guilty man.
And just to give a sense for how long this has dragged out, they are now on the 5th judge in the case. The judge that was just appointed in July is the 5th. And, you know, there's also logistical challenges getting to the naval base in Guantanamo. There's only so many flights. All these different people's schedules have to be coordinated. Right now, the next set of pretrial hearings isn't scheduled till December. So this is a very slow-moving process, to say the least.
And, of course, every time you bring in a new judge, they're going to have to review the whole record. That could take a few months.
Exactly, and it's a huge record. And, you know, every little detail in this case is being litigated because, you know, there's no clear rules for military court. I mean, we've had military commissions before, but never with a case of this magnitude and this level of complication. And then everything gets appealed. It's unclear what can and can't be litigated. It just seems like everything is happening in a circle, and you end up with the situation where truly a trial may not happen for many years.
And I mean, the main benefit of this is that in the plea deal, they would finally come clean and explain exactly what they did.
Right. I mean, the benefit to a plea deal, which is now basically fallen apart, is that they would have confessed to their crimes. There would have been a detailed accounting of what took place. And then the families actually would have had a chance to address the court and to address the defendants themselves, I believe. So it would have, you know, delivered some level of closure and finality to this process, whereas now, while the death penalty can still be pursued, it could be many, many years until we get to that process. And then there's a separate process whether to determine whether the death penalty will be applied as part of sentencing, you know, another possibly years-long process.
Okay. Thanks very much, Bobby. We're going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined by the president of the Uniformed Firefighters Association of Greater New York, as well as a lawyer who represents 9/11 rescue workers. We will mark 24 years since the September 11th attacks. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Kirk.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
Watch this. I can make it hotter, I can make it colder. Hotter, colder from my phone. Smart birdhouse. Even the birds have Spectrum Wi-Fi. Who likes treats? You do. That's right, yes you do.
Very impressive, son.
And one more.
Nice.
Can I change colors? Launch party mode. Yeah.
It's all about connecting with the fastest, most reliable internet from Spectrum.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. New York City observed a moment of silence earlier today at 8:46 a.m. That's the time when the first plane struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center on September 11th. Today marks 24 years since the attacks killed nearly 3,000 people and has since claimed the lives of many others through related illnesses from the aftermath. That includes first responders who arrived at the scene to help survivors and were exposed to the dust and the particles that came when the buildings fell. Joining me now to talk more about this are members of a special panel. Andrew Ansbro is the president of the Uniformed Firefighters Association of Greater New York, which represents 20,000 active duty and retired New York City firefighters. Nicholas Pepin is a personal injury trial lawyer whose firm has secured more than $1 billion for 9/11 rescue survivors and victims. Welcome to the program, both of you. And if you could tell us where you were on 9/11. You and family members were right there in the thick of it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on today, by the way. 9/11 happened about a month after I was out of the FDNY Academy. I was assigned up to 58 Engine in Harlem, and although there were several fires, they were all on my days off. On the morning of 9/11, I was getting off a 24-hour shift, and the call came in after the second tower was hit, and 58 Engine rode down to the Trade Center. We made it as far as the lobby of the Marriott Hotel. My lieutenant went to the command post and spoke to the two chiefs to get our assignment. And there was a significant amount of time as they were sending other companies upstairs. But eventually the South Tower came crashing down onto the Marriott. Myself and a few other guys got outside. My lieutenant, unfortunately, was trapped. Lieutenant Bobby Nagel. He was trapped in the elevator bay with a few chiefs. And members of my company spent about 45 minutes trying to get him out, as well as other members. And then when the North Tower started coming down, he told them to run for it. And unfortunately, he never survived. We never found anything of him. But the members that worked on getting him out, they did survive that day. And, you know, we spent the next 3 weeks trying to find his body and bring him home to his wife. I saw his wife earlier today. We have a mass every year with her. And we tied a rope off to him when he was alive, and we followed the rope for 3 weeks. And there was a hole opened up in the lobby of the Marriott when we finally dug it out, and he was, you know, knocked into the sub-basement, and we never found our lieutenant or the two chiefs he was with.
Wow, wow. Now, the FDNY released numbers today, increasing the official number of casualties, and yes. I assume that that's just reflecting some of the diseases that struck some of the firefighters later on.
Yes, so on September 11th, we lost 343 firefighters in a little over an hour. In the 24 years since 9/11, there are 409 firefighters that have passed from 9/11 related illnesses. We've lost another 39 in the last year. We're approximately losing 3 a month to 9/11 related illnesses. There's a firefighter right now in hospice. There's 100 or so firefighters that are receiving advanced cancer care. And unfortunately, the numbers, they continue to, you know, large numbers of firefighters are still sick.
So now, Nick Pepin, this is something that we've covered over the decades at this point, the need to continually grow and expand and replenish the relief funds. Is that because the calculations didn't take into account all of the different cancers that would come to be covered?
Well, right now, the problem is getting adequate funding for the World Trade Center health program. You have over 140,000 first responders and survivors, those that work, lived, went to school in the exposure zone, lower Manhattan, who were exposed to the toxins not just for days or weeks, but for months following the attacks. And right now, there's a shortage of funds. Yes, there was an underestimation as far as how devastating the aftermath would be in terms of 9/11 related injuries. You have over 50,000 first responders and civilians who have contracted a 9/11 related cancer. And the numbers, you know, are just multiplying as time goes on because these are latent type illnesses. So right now our focus is making sure there's adequate funding because that health program is a lifeline for many first responders and survivors.
I was reading through the number of syndromes and diseases, and we're talking about chronic cough, asthma, lung cancer. We heard about that fairly early on, but then, you know, lymphoma, thyroid cancer, skin cancer, prostate cancer, mental health conditions, post-traumatic stress, and so forth. Is it expected that this is ultimately, as best we can, cover everybody who was affected?
No, well, in fact, one of the shortcomings right now is that there was extensive research being done as far as other potential 9/11 related illnesses, autoimmune diseases involving the kidneys. And unfortunately, that's kind of been put on hold because of the shortage of funds and the sort of things on pause right now in terms of the health program. And that's just, it's gotta stop. You know, on 9/11, Andy and his fellow firefighters and other first responders, they did their job, they did the right thing. And it's our job to make sure that, as we said back then, never forget. Well, the way to never forget is to have that program properly funded.
Sure, sure. Now, I mean, when it comes to many of the cancers, I assume that there are, you know, insurance benefits, things that members of the service would have that would cover a lot of it. Does the health fund cover above and beyond that?
Well, you know, being New York City employees, for firefighters, we do have health care. But when you get into the World Trade Center healthcare program, you're in a community where the doctors understand the exact cancers that you have. They understand the treatment. They're much more in tune to what your issues are. But that's just for us as far as being members of the FDNY. If you're a civilian and you don't have health care, this is all you have. So it's vastly different, although we have a bit of a safety net because we are New York City employees. Being in that network is a great benefit to us because the doctors are specific to know our issues because they treat just the members of our community, just the members of the 9/11 community. But if you're a civilian, if you're a construction worker that doesn't have this lifetime health care from the city, it's a big issue for you. And the breakdown that happened down in Washington, they offered buyouts as they made the cuts early in February. The head of research for the World Trade Center Healthcare Program took the buyout. There's also a hiring freeze. There is no head of research right now. So as you know, Nick said, we're looking at neuropathies, we're looking at autoimmune disease, we're looking at cardiac diseases, but there is no head of research to conduct the research or write the grants for the research to see to it that people that have ongoing illnesses that the 9/11 community believes should be covered, that connection can't be made. So there are people that can't get the diseases can't get certified, even though we believe the numbers are there to see to it that they should be included.
That is shocking. I would think that there'd be some way, given the billions of dollars that we're talking about, to sort of manage it in such a way, to, I don't know, invest it, grow it, make sure that it would be extended almost in perpetuity.
Quite simply, Congress has to step up and do the right thing and show they haven't forgotten.
Okay, we'll leave it there for now.
Absolutely. Today, every politician in America is putting on their Facebook page, never forget. We're going to go around and make sure that when the bill comes up, we're going to try to get the bill into a funding package, that we're going to hold them to it, that they never forget that the American people expect them to care for those people that were injured due to long-term effects of being around ground zero.
And funding and staffing the research is especially important.
Actually,
thank you so much for coming in. Great talking with the both of you. Let's take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined by Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado to talk about his opposition to 2 proposed pipeline projects here in New York. Stay with us.
If it's the theater you love, then we've got just the ticket. On Stage is your all-access pass to Broadway, off-Broadway, and the best live entertainment in the city. The interviews and backstage exclusives. All that's made On Stage the go-to source for entertainment for over 20 years.
Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for On Stage.
Also available on the Spectrum News app.
I'll see you at the theater, exclusively on Spectrum.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall, where we are turning our attention now to the race for governor. That's happening next year. It'll be here before you know it. Kathy Hochul is up for re-election and is facing a primary challenge from her own lieutenant governor. That's my next guest, Antonio Delgado, who's been calling out the governor over 2 major pipeline proposals here in New York. This comes after the governor reportedly struck a deal with the Trump administration a few months back in order to save an offshore wind project off the coast of Long Island. We'll explain. The 2 projects that are under discussion are the Constitution Pipeline and the Northeast Supply Enhancement Pipeline. Hochul has faced mounting pressure from environmental activists and some lawmakers to oppose those new gas pipelines. Joining me now to talk about where things stand in his campaign and much more is Lieutenant Governor and gubernatorial candidate Antonio Delgado. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Always good to see you. Thanks for having me back.
To the idea that to the extent that politics is about the art of the possible, the good, not the perfect, and the governor struck this deal with the Trump administration, some offshore wind project gets to go forward in Long Island, but the gas pipeline connecting, I guess, Pennsylvania and ultimately Texas with the western part of the state, not a deal that you like?
Absolutely not. It's important to understand that these are pipelines that were previously denied permits due to water quality standards that we, as a state, have an obligation to enforce, and as a state have the authority to do so under the Clean Water Act. Nothing has changed with these pipelines. The science hasn't changed, their projected impact on water quality hasn't changed, and the impact to New Yorkers directly hasn't changed. So what we're talking about is a governor who's decided to make a deal with an individual in the White House that will put New Yorkers directly in harm's way. And that is unacceptable, full stop.
And would you, assuming the deal couldn't have been done any other way, the loss of the offshore wind project would have been just a casualty of that reality?
That can't be what we justify, putting New Yorkers in harm's way. The Nessie pipeline you referred to was denied a permit twice now, 19 and 20. It's been denied. So if our state laws have already made it clear that this is going to not meet the quality of water that we want New Yorkers to be exposed to, then in essence, when you make this deal, what you're saying is we're okay with putting New Yorkers in harm's way, literally putting their well-being in harm's way. And not only are you doing that from a health and wellness standpoint, but the cost of energy, the amount of money that New Yorkers will have to put in to account for this extension of these pipelines, by estimates of 3 to 5% increase in utility bills. So not only is it going to hurt them physically, potentially, but it's also going to hurt New Yorkers economically. So yeah, it is deeply problematic, and it feels a lot more like political theater than anything of substance for the people. Keep in mind, New York is a leader in climate. The CLCPA is a nation-leading climate law. The notion that we would have a governor that would make this kind of deal, that will put New Yorkers in harm's way and is totally at odds with our climate goals and would increase energy bills, what do we have to show for it?
I saw that you signed a petition urging the governor to undo the deal in effect. And I think I know the answer to this, but I do have to ask it. You have her phone number. Have you called her up just to talk about it?
I haven't talked to her about this particular issue. We have a lot of disagreements on a lot of different issues at this point. And who I talk to now more than ever is the people, to elevate their voices and where they view this issue going. And where this issue, and what I've heard from folks all across this state, be it downstate or be it in the southern tier or be it in the Hudson Valley, no matter where you go across this state, folks do not want frack gas being expanded across New York. There was a fight decades ago to ban fracking. And now here we are decades later with a governor of New York who appears willing to sell that fight out. And that is a problem. And I stand with all New Yorkers who understand that we can be better.
Okay. How's the campaign going?
Outstanding. I was just out in Syracuse this week where I received the endorsement of Citizen Action, a grassroots, people-powered organization that is dedicated to making sure that we have a government that works for the people and not for profits, that we have a government that's committed to really tackling economic inequality and making sure that we put public goods ahead of private greed. To me, to have that kind of support is emblematic of the fact that our message is getting out there. We're connecting with people. I did a meet and greet that same day, heard from folks who are struggling when it comes to housing, food insecurity, health care. They want and they deserve more, Errol.
Much of what we're seeing in the race for mayor and in selected other races that are being looked at really all around the country is people who are at wit's end with the status quo, that they just want something different and they're looking elsewhere. Right. You sound like you want to be their candidate, those people.
I believe that for a very, very long time, this status quo has been broken. Right here in New York, 1 in 5 kids are living in poverty, half those kids in deep poverty. 2 out of 5 households all across New York can't afford basic necessities, and yet we have the largest wealth inequality gap in the country of any state. A $254 billion budget, the 3rd largest economy in the country, the 9th in the world if we were an independent nation, and the question remains, where is the money going? To the top 1% and the big corporations. That's where it's going. People are going hungry, they're hurting, and they don't want elected officials who call themselves for the people, who seem more interested in taking money from the powerful to keep themselves in power at the expense of the very people who gave them power in the first place. So yes, I very much intend to be the people's champion in this moment.
What's the most transformative measure that you think would help close the inequality gap within New York? And by that, I mean economic inequality.
I think there's 3 main issues that we need to center ourselves around: housing, healthcare, and wages. From a housing standpoint, we got to get beyond this idea of just giving tax credits to developers and hoping that it somehow will work itself out. We need to stabilize rents all across this state, make it easier for localities to do that kind of work. We need a public developer that is committed to actually doing the work of building off-market, permanently affordable housing. We need a healthcare system that drives the profit motive out of our system once and for all. And we need livable wages, not just a minimum wage. If we can secure these 3 things, I think this state can move forward in a fashion where we lift up all New Yorkers across this state of ours.
That second one sounds like a real big one. How do you get a profit out of the healthcare system? I mean, it's just not set up.
You take on the insurance companies. You bring more accountability into the system. You actually tax billionaires and big corporations. And by the way, the cost savings you get by eliminating more and more the insurance companies' reach because of its bureaucracy, the middlemen, all the ways in which it profiteers off the individuals. Folks are going bankrupt, Errol. Bankrupt over their health care. Whether it's medical debt now, whether it's personal debt, whether it's credit card debt, people are hurting all around this state and all around this country. And I think there's a real hunger right now for leaders who are prepared to actually rectify this grotesque level of imbalance born of the normalization of greed.
To the extent that you're campaigning all over the state, I know you're paying attention to some of the politics here in New York City. I'm wondering if you've endorsed anybody in the race for mayor.
Oh, yes. I endorsed Mandami within 24 to 48 hours of him winning the primary. And do you know why? Because he's the Democratic nominee. It's simple. And I think it's quite notable that leaders all across this state, leaders of our Democratic Party, continue to keep the Democratic nominee at arm's length. The Democratic nominee, who, by the way, won in the first round by a significant margin. The Democratic nominee, who, by the way, pulled in more voters between 18 and 34 than any other prior nominee. The Democratic nominee who actually inspired young people to come out who've never voted for. And so if we're talking about the threat that we see coming out of Washington, and we're trying to build a coalition of the willing, who are we to have purity tests for who wants to jump into this fight and fight for all New Yorkers. And those of us who consider ourselves for the people, who are moral agents dedicated to fighting and lifting up the cause of justice in the face of the immorality coming out of Washington, need to push all that nonsense aside and do the work of building a broad-based coalition to fight and fight for all of us.
When, I guess maybe it's premature, but since you raised the issue, if after next year's primary you were not the nominee, will you support the nominee?
Of course, as a Democratic nominee, but I'm going to win, Errol, and that's the point. The point is you put your work in and you fight for the people, and then the best person will win. I believe we have a really strong chance here to do something, not just me, but the people of New York, to do something. This is a movement that is about issues. This is a movement that is about correcting the imbalance that has persisted on Democrats' watch. This is a blue state, Errol, and people are hurting in this state. People are economically disadvantaged in a blue state, and we have to have more accountability. I'm here to bring accountability to that process, and I intend, along with New Yorkers all across this state, to change that for the better.
Are there other phenomenon elsewhere in the state that you've picked up where young people are coming out in numbers the way we saw in the Democratic primary here in the city?
I think young folks, I was just out in, like I said, Syracuse to the town hall. One of the things that I get from a lot of folks all across this state who are watching the mayor's race, and what they're trying to figure out is, where is not just the city going, but where is the state going to go? And are we going to move in a direction where there is a willingness, for example, to raise revenue from those who have a lot already? Is there a willingness to stop giving away corporate giveaways, right? Is there a willingness to say, how about we take these public dollars and invest them in our younger folks and give them an opportunity? There's an economic nihilism out there right now that our young people are saddled with because they don't believe they could be better off than their parents or their grandparents. This might be the first time in our country's history where the generation coming up is not only going to be better off, but worse off. Worse off than the generation ahead of them. That's unacceptable here in New York and certainly all across America.
Okay, we are going to see you out on the campaign trail. Thanks so much for coming by. Great talking with you.
Thank you.
All right, let's take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll take a closer look at a proposed court order that could protect hundreds of cannabis businesses that were told to close up due to a state error. We'll explain all of that in 2 minutes. Stay with us. Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. Spectrum helps me stay online. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. Without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
Get up to 4 months free when you bundle award-winning internet. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York 1 for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. In our final story tonight, there's been an important new development in a cannabis lawsuit over how the state calculates the distance between dispensaries and schools and houses of worship. A new order filed in the case yesterday could give hundreds of licensed cannabis retailers until February to renew their licenses and remain open. The State Office of Cannabis Management agreed to the terms of the order, which is expected to be signed by a judge in the next few days. Upstate political reporter Kate Lisa has been following this issue and joins us now from inside the Capitol. Good evening, Kate.
Good evening, Errol. So if this order is signed, up to 200 dispensaries that are impacted by this change will have until February 15th of 2026 to renew their license or to open their store. And OCM's current school proximity guidelines will stay in place until at least then. And state lawmakers who lead cannabis policy told me that they are having active conversations about bill language to fix this issue and that they do expect to draft that legislation in the coming weeks. And they also tell me that they're confident that they can pass this measure at the beginning of session and certainly before that mid-February deadline. And a judge is expected to be assigned to this case tomorrow, and he could sign the order tomorrow or at least by early next week. If signed, it would allow affected licensees to stay open until the legislature takes action. And the state agreed to this order with attorney Jorge Luis Vasquez, who represents a dozen dispensaries in the city that sued the state over this issue. And this injunction would apply to all cannabis dispensary owners who were notified that the location of their store currently violates state law. Osford Orduna, who owns the Cannabis Place dispensary in Queens, has led the litigation effort and says the order will allow him to renew his license that will expire next month.
While we do feel a slight measure of assurance and relief today, the reality is, there is still a lot of things that are hanging over our heads, and we're still in a very precarious position and situation. And so it's imperative that the governor's office and the legislature take action to correct this.
And if it's signed, this order will be a small win for affected dispensary owners, but it's just the beginning of this legal battle. The dozen petitioners are fighting to be permanently grandfathered in under OCM's proximity guidelines that were first adopted in 2022. Current state cannabis law does not allow growers, processors, or anyone else in the supply chain to sell products to dispensaries without a valid license. Senate Subcommittee on Cannabis Chair Jeremy Cooney says that there's active talks going on with Governor Kathy Hochul's office and legislative leaders about how to fix the law and the terms to grandfather existing licensees and applicants under the old rules. He expects legislation will be introduced within the month, and let's listen to what he had to say about that.
I'm fully on board with working with OCM, the governor's office, the Senate majority, the Assembly majority to come up with a solution. We got to figure out, we cannot leave these people out to dry. No. We have got to fix this.
And there's also been some confusion about this. Attorneys say that this order, if it's signed, will apply to any person with a retail license who is impacted by this change, regardless of when they were notified by the state. And OCM Acting Executive Director Felicia A.B. Reed did say at a Cannabis Control Board meeting earlier this week that a total of 200 businesses and applicants were impacted by this. And in an interesting twist, OCM tried to walk back and claim that it was only 152 businesses that the State Office of Cannabis Management did notify in late July, but Senator Cooney did confirm that he has also heard that it is at least 200 businesses that are impacted by this. Errol?
So now, Kate, if I understand the timing here right, the assumption is that the legislature will reconvene in January and take action fairly quickly before the February deadline comes up. What are the odds of that actually happening as opposed to all of this getting tossed into the usual bargaining bin where different things are traded up in Albany?
Yeah, exactly. That's always a fear, and I talked to Senator Cooney about that, and he says that he's been adamant that that is not what can happen. This has to be a priority when lawmakers return to Albany here in January. Obviously, there's no discussion about a special session happening before that, so they will have about 6 weeks to maybe get this finished, to get it signed, and he says he's been talking with the governor's office about this. Of course, it is up to her. It's up to Governor Hochul. If she is, obviously they are negotiating the terms of this legislation with her actively right now. So anything that is released, we can, the senator says, obviously the governor will likely be on board with, and he's hopeful that this will get done by February 15th.
Okay, thanks very much, Kate. Before we say goodnight, as a reminder, you can now stream Inside City Hall episodes live on the New York One YouTube channel through Election Day. And as always, you can find us on demand on the Spectrum News app. That's going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You done with the sports section?
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
My name is Gail, and we are in my showroom for Florist Fire Design House. We are a full production wedding and event company that focuses on florals. Getting Spectrum set up for my business was extremely smooth. They were here the same day, had it set up within an hour, and I was online and ready to go and run my business. You know, I have to be able to be online at 5 a.m. when the market's open. And if I'm contacting a merchant via email or placing an order online, without Spectrum, it wouldn't be possible.
One more row.
Spectrum is reliable, they're committed, they're fast, and they really take care of me as a business owner. Last year, when the really bad hurricane came through, our internet stayed the entire time. One of the businesses down the street, she was like, wait a minute, how are you still online? And I was like, Spectrum, baby. You gotta get Spectrum.
Get award-winning internet for your business. Up to 4 months free when bundled. Visit spectrum.com/business to learn more.
This election year is all about New York City. There are 51 council seats up for grabs, races for our next city comptroller and the next public advocate.
Plus, an unprecedented race for mayor. That puts the power in your hands to decide who will run our city.
Our team of political experts will be covering every angle of this election to keep you informed on how it could affect you, so you can feel confident with your decision at the polls.
Stay with Spectrum News New York One for Decision 2025, exclusively on Spectrum.